What is up, hotties? I'm Blaiden Kirk, joined as always by my two favorite co-hosts of all time, Matthew Sponauer and Theo Ash, and welcome back to another episode of Stay Hot, presented by our good friends over at Little Caesars Pizza. We're Stay Hot, they're staying ready with some hot and ready pizza for you all NFL season long. We're here to talk about a little bit of NFL storylines going on. We got to discuss the Eagles at least a little bit. They're on a bit of a downward stretch recently. I think we also want to talk a little bit about Atlanta. I think that's the other team we kind of want to discuss right now.
And maybe even the team that played them. Maybe even them too.
Maybe the Panthers got a win. I don't know. We like to spend this Wednesday episode talking about some of the games that we don't usually get to during our Sunday recap. And then, of course, we'll do our NBA Game Changer of the Week. But before we get into that, and we'll do the Stay Hot Locks, but before we get into all that, Matt, Theo, how are you guys doing?
I'm doing well. I'm recording here at the airport in a quiet corner, so, of course, now a baby is coming.
Now, but, the second you say that, a baby
there was a quiet corner until
about something.
about 10 seconds ago. So hopefully it's all good. I'm kind of back in my...
Why would they be upset? They get to listen to a live episode of Stay Hot.
Oh my God.
I know. Don't they know
you
how
should go
lucky
talk
they
to
are?
them. Do you understand the honor you've been bestowed with right now?
I'm a niche internet micro celebrity, and I have a lot of knowledge about like the Eagles and stuff. So you may want to calm that baby down, or maybe I can with my.
They're probably an Eagles fan.
Presence.
That's probably why they're crying.
That's probably true. But there was a little bit where I feel like I was recording in airports and stuff almost all the time. So this is a little bit of a callback to like
this is very like
that summer.
Yeah. this is classic Stay Hot, vintage Stay Hot, if one will.
Yeah. I've recorded in McDonald's, I've recorded in airports, I've recorded in shitty motels.
Yeah. You probably have the most away from home records of all of us. I don't know. I don't know. Actually, I don't know if me or Blade. I can't remember a single time.
I think actually, I'm the only person.
No. When I first moved apartments, I remember I had to do it one time. But
I've recorded in like hotels or like in like an Airbnb, but
never the public setting.
Never in public. I don't think I could do it. So you're.
I guess I could if I had.
I shouldn't be doing it, but I was irresponsible, and here
it's a big week.
So
it's a very big week. You know what week it is?
It's a big week. Christmas.
Well, that taking second place too. It's Packers Panthers week, baby.
Ooh.
I'm not gonna be too friendly to you this week, buddy. No. I might even be mean and awful.
I think you each have to lock like your respective team.
I am not locking the Panthers. This guy is like biting at my heels to win the Stay Hot locks. Yeah, I think you gotta lock the Panthers this week, man. I mean, come on.
I could use the bonus to make up some ground, but anyway,
you could. Anyway, do we want to start off with talking about the Eagles? You know, they're coming off a loss to the Seattle Seahawks. We were watching the first half of that game, and, you know, coming out of the first half, I think we were still convinced the Eagles were probably going to pull it out.
And then
now, to be fair, if JSN doesn't make that miraculous catch to win the game,
you got to expect that at OSU receivers, right. I'm afraid. He's nice. He had a rough start to the season, but there's just no way that a guy is with such a high football IQ and such a nice, route tree is not going to be successful like him.
Right.
He's going to figure it out. It's going to end up being a good pick.
Yeah.
We said at the time the Seahawks nailed the first round last year. They did. So there is the context of like game win, like literally last second game winning catch. And then there's also the context of, I guess it wasn't last second. The Eagles did have a chance. And then there's the context of like Jalen Hurts was sick, but it's still worth discussing, I do feel a little bad.
Well, this isn't the
Hurts.
only one that they've dropped.
Right. This is their
You know,
third one in
they're
a
coming
row.
off
Yeah,
a loss.
it's not the only one that they
they're
dropped.
coming
It
off
was a
3.
tough game, sick in the rain. On the road is
It's like
probably,
stuff happened, but like
it's happened several
There's
weeks.
clearly,
Although if you look at the win probability of this game, it's hilarious.
And the whole season, the Eagles haven't quite felt like they did last year. Even when they were winning, the Eagles had some issues that was written off of as fake pessimism from their fans. And Eagles fans still have it pretty good, I think. I think a lot of the ways that we can explain the fall off compared to last year is, well, last year they had one of the easiest schedules, and this year they don't. And
right.
or they're going through a stretch. I guess I don't know where their schedule ranks over the course of the league, but
they've played some tougher games. I'll say this: before their 3-game losing streak to Niners, Cowboys, Seahawks, all good teams, they had a 3-game winning streak against the Cowboys, Chiefs, and Bills.
Right,
all pretty good teams. So it's not all doom and gloom. They've never beaten anybody, but yeah, they haven't looked as strong as they did last year.
And I think a big reason for that is simply the rushing offense. Like, we could talk about the defense later, but like talking about Jalen Hurts' side of the ball and A.J. Brown, and those are the guys everybody wants to talk about and pick apart, and Sirianni, who's supposed to be an offensive guy. Like, starting with just talking about the offense, I seriously think, like, even though Hurts and A.J. Brown are in the spotlight, it's the rushing game that feels different for them. And last year, I think they averaged a full half yard more per attempt overall.
Miles Sanders was way better than any rushing threat they have this year outside of Hurts.
Yeah, and Hurts was a better rusher last year. He was more dynamic. He was breaking more tackles statistically last season. We talked about it a little bit with the Bears last week, and I think the Eagles are kind of going through a similar thing. Defenses are playing them differently. Last year, they were at the top of the league in man coverage rate because I just don't think the league quite respected Hurts as a passer yet. He's still kind of got to prove himself in that area. He's such a good rushing threat. Everybody knows that. So it was a lot of man coverage, and it was a lot of stacked boxes. And then this year, it's a lot more zone. They would be lucky to get a game where someone tried to major in man coverage against them. And last year, they were getting it all the time. So it's just tougher sledding. And I think that they're an example of something that we talked about a lot this offseason, where if you didn't get better, you got worse. And they're just kind of the same with defenses adjusting.
Yeah, I don't disagree. And I'll say this wasn't from lack of trying with the rushing this game. I mean, oh my God, for the first half in particular was just zone read, over and over and over and over. And it looked like they wanted to establish that as much as they could without trying to put the ball in the air. Now, granted, again, Jalen Hurts sick in the rain. A lot of that makes sense. But even their good drives were kind of slogs. And then when that sort of got shut down a little bit more, it didn't feel like they had as much to go to in the air as they should.
Yeah, and when they ran in the last game, I thought they did a nice job overall sticking with it, and they did go on some really long scoring drives, but they were really long, and that gives you less room for error over the course of the game because it's just
right. Yep.
You took a lot of minutes to score a lot of points, and when they hand the ball off, it isn't these big chunk plays. It's like they're kind of barely hanging on, and they'll have a successful play, and then the Seahawks will, and then they will, and then the Seahawks will, and they won out in the end on a couple drives, but they also had a ton of 3-and-outs, and I just think they did such a good job to keep everybody around. Like, it was no guarantee that Slay or Lane Johnson or Bradbury or Kelsey was back this year, and they got all those guys back, and it could be a complete disaster if they didn't, but they didn't get to really bring in anybody new, and they had the brain drain at both coordinator spots.
I was about to say, as much as we talk, they kept all their guys, they didn't keep all their guys. They lost Shane Steichen, and we see the success he's having in Indianapolis. I mean, they're definitely feeling that. And I started to compile a list of like Jalen Hurts' past coaches. And it is a serious high class list. The head coaches alone is Nick Saban, Lincoln Riley, Doug Peterson, Nick Sirianni. The offensive coordinators is Lane Kiffin, Brian Dable, and Shane Steichen.
When did he work with Dable? At Alabama,
2017.
I guess.
Yeah, it was the year he got benched in the national title.
That's right. I forgot that Dable was a Patriot Saban guy at one point.
Yeah. But yeah, so Steichen and Sirianni is the only duo that he had ever had in back-to-back seasons. And so we talk about like you would what you needed to happen this year was you needed to have Hurts take another step.
Yep.
But you almost wonder if Brian Johnson, who was the quarterback coach last year, now offensive coordinator, if he just like wasn't the right guy to help give Hurts that. Because every other coach you see during this track is like, okay, this is a high-level offensive mind. We know this now looking back. That was clearly an ideal situation for him to improve in, and I just wonder if this is not.
Yeah, and I wonder if a quarterback coach, in charge of the entire offense, like it kind of makes sense that he's not as talented as a running play designer.
Steichen was a quarterback coach too, wasn't he?
Yeah, I guess that's true. He was. I guess I don't know the exact dynamics of what they major in.
I don't know anything about Brian Johnson.
It's clear.
So like,
it's clear that he's not as talented as a play caller as Steichen is. But at the same time, I feel like there's a lot of other factors at play. I mean, losing your linebacker group puts more pressure on the defense, in turn putting more pressure on the offense to put points on the board. Maybe you want to do that, through the air a little bit more. And I think another big problem is just they have the worst running back room like in the league. I think that never gets talked about when we talk about their, why their rushing game isn't the same. It's like, it's just not good backs. Like Swift is the best one they've got, but I like his
Swift.
I like his cutbacks, but I don't think that he's super physical. I think that sometimes he gets it in his head that he is, and like will lower the boom and like go into truck somebody. But as far as that being an inherent part of his game, like he doesn't run through tackles or stay up and finish runs hard a lot of the times. And his run paths like just included just too many cutbacks in my opinion. So he's not a great back.
Well, and this is a big part of the problem. It's like, okay, we talk about, they're not generating as many explosives as you'd like when they're running and running and running and running. And, a lot of their run game is just trying to play the numbers wherever they are to an extreme extent, a lot of option stuff, a lot of RPO stuff. But even when Swift gets the numbers and even when he's behind a great offensive line, and even when he is, a guy who is pretty aggressive trying to break off big plays, he doesn't do it with great consistency. No. He's really not that great at breaking them. In this last game, he had 18 carries and maybe one double-digit rush. And from a guy with his play style and his position with that offense, that number should be way, way higher. And I legitimately wonder if they're going to be really, really looking at running back this year in the offseason and like spending a premium pick on one.
And who they have inactive though, who I think it's setting up wonderfully for
Theo, who do they have inactive?
A playoff Lenny type of run, perhaps, is Rashad Penny. Playoff Penny.
A playoff Penny.
I think you brought him up before one time. The name seems vaguely familiar.
I may have a video on this Stay Hot account calling him like the best running back ever.
Say hello to a stressless holiday season with the help of HelloFresh. Script the grocery store and save time with easy, tasty recipes delivered right to your door. 'Tis the season for giving and gathering, and with HelloFresh, it can also be the season of saving. Actually save time and money this month with fresh recipes delivered cheaper than takeout, and with pre-portioned ingredients, you'll never waste any money on excess food. With HelloFresh, you get farm fresh, pre-portioned ingredients and seasonal recipes delivered right to your doorstep. So skip trips to the grocery store and count on HelloFresh to make home cooking easy, fun, and affordable. That's why it's America's #1 meal kit. And that's why we love it here at Stay Hot. Listen, HelloFresh makes cooking so easy. They give you all the recipes. It makes it easy for me. Again, even my sister can do it. We've talked about this before. If my sister can do it, you can do it. She's turning 13, dog. You can do it. I promise. It's that easy. So make sure you go on to HelloFresh.com/stayhotfree and use the code STAYHOTFREE for free breakfast for life. 1 breakfast item per box while subscription is active. That's free breakfast for life at HelloFresh.com/stayhotfree with the code STAYHOTFREE. And of course, it's America's and Stay Hot's #1 meal kit.
But look, I seriously think like if they want explosive plays on the ground, like it may be time to start working him in a little bit more. I get that he's been bad in pass protection, and that's a huge part of it. They pass the ball a lot, and they did last year. They weren't they were just more efficient when they did run the ball, but their pass rate isn't extremely different this time around. But yeah, I do wonder if they keep losing games and if they're frustrated with the backfield and can't quite find a formula that works with the 3 that they have active. Hey, you signed this guy. I mean, you gave him a contract. Like, why not let him try it a little bit? I'm not predicting it, I guess.
To replace. You would hope that his role is to replace Sanders, I guess. But
I mean, you'd hope that he works in somehow. I don't think he has to fully replace Sanders and rush for 1,200 yards. I mean, he's injury prone. He's never had that type of production, but I mean, he's healthy now, I'd assume.
Maybe they're just maybe they're just like, we don't want him to get hurt, so they're saving him for the playoffs.
I think maybe I think it could be. I don't know.
That's why they're not running him at all.
I could just see him being active 1 week. They give him 1 carry. Okay, it's 8 yards. They give him another. He sifts the inside zone and finds a cutback in a way maybe Swift wouldn't. Okay, that's 6 yards, and the game ends, and all of a sudden it's like, okay, the Swift carries went pretty well. Let's work him in a little bit more. And then by the Super Bowl, he's the MVP.
He's the MVP.
Stats on the season: 5 rushes, 17 yards for Rashad Penny, folks.
What's the
sample
DVOA?
Sample size, don't get me wrong, but the fact that the sample
I can't
size
make any judgments on if 5 carries for 17 yards is a good season until I see
they're giving Boston Scott more looks than Rashad Penny.
I just think it's bad. I question Sirianni there. I think usually I would say a player is on the bench for a reason and the coaches know more than we do, but in this case I know what I've seen. So I just wonder if.
I agree. And Sanders was a really great home run hitter for them last year. I think that's more his game. And when things finally came together last season and everything was working, I mean, he had a fantastic season. They haven't replaced that. And the problem 100% is like, it's not like they're going with Swift because they thought that was their guy. It's like, dude, I believe in Penny to a certain extent, but outside of that, it's Kenneth Gainwell, who I'm not high on whatsoever, and then it's Boston Scott. I do think they needed to be more aggressive, or maybe just better, adding running backs last offseason, and it's killing them that they weren't and they didn't.
Yeah, DeAndre Swift is a guy, he's worked behind the greatest offensive lines that he could possibly work behind. And I don't know. I think that it's at this point in his career, like this is his best shot to really make an impact. And he did early in the year, obviously, like 150 yards, but 2 weeks in a row, something like that. But teams have had time to kind of lock in with their run fits. Minnesota certainly has. And I just don't think those kinds of open areas are available playing December football. It's tougher sledding, and he hasn't really stepped up, I feel like. So, yeah, Brian Johnson is not as talented as Steichen, but at the end of the day, and the other thing is their wide receiver 3 is not good. I mean, it's Julio Jones a lot of the times, and there was a pick, and Julian Love made a great play on it, but that's a ball that should be thrown, in my opinion, that long pick. It was one-on-one with the safety, and it probably could have been put a little bit farther out in front, but the safety is the one who made the play on it in kind of a 50-50 situation. And Quez Watkins and Zacchaeus and Julio Jones, like that third option in the receiving game isn't really there. And it's because they couldn't make any moves really. Like
the third option is supposed to be Goddard, right? And even so, like they didn't have this problem last year of like not having enough receiving options. Like it was AJ Brown,
because they got so much man. I feel like, you know, like if you get man coverage, AJ Brown and Devontae Smith are winning. I think that's the central problem to everything that the Eagles are facing this year is just they got a lot of man last year. Teams got torched, and this year they're playing more zone, and it's just harder for them. And I think that's like there's a lot of little reasons too, and there's a lot of reasons why Steichen is better than Brian Johnson. But I think like in a macro level, that's the most pressing issue is defenses are playing them differently. And they didn't have the opportunity this offseason to make the roster better because it was pretty much maxed out last year. So
well, it's just tough. You know, it's tough to take a team that goes to the Super Bowl and make them better because you're already paying so many guys. And then they had picks. And I didn't think they did an overall bad job this offseason, but it's like both your coordinators leave, who are both really good. Well, odds are, you know, it can only go down from there. I will say this. I just added it up. Last 3 games, last 3 losses. DeAndre Swift, 39 total touches. Not touchdowns, touches.
Wow.
134 yards. That's 3.4 yards a touch over the last 3 games.
Not great.
It's not good. It's not good. That was just a much bigger factor in their offense last year. And yeah, that's my overall point. Like, people point the finger at Hurts. People point the finger at A.J. Brown. I think that Hurts deserves some flack for not maybe taking another step. But, man, like the backs and the running game, that's where the real fall off has happened. And against zone coverage this year versus last, it's the same numbers. 0.04 EPA per play, 12th in the league. Last year and this year.
Theo, do you have any data on like I should just pull up his time to throw, but I wonder how frequently we see Hurts just do like top of your drop, rip the ball.
It's not much this year, and it's something that the Bengals faced in 2021. You know, that Burrow and Chase, they weren't proven. Teams played man against them, and that was the go ball year. It seemed like each and every week that pass was getting completed for Cincinnati, right? And the next year, it was a lot more zone, and Burrow started getting the ball out of his hands crazy quick and settling for the underneath stuff more, and it wasn't so explosive, like 20 yards past the numbers, and it was fine for the Bengals because Burrow, I think, took another step, and with Hurts, you know, in 2022, it was the same deal. It was a go ball and slant type of offense. Those are man coverage beaters. This year, people wonder, like, where are all the go balls? Where are all the slants? It's like you can't run them against zone as easily, guys, and they're not getting the same looks. So it
only
can't be.
2 quarterbacks this year have a longer time to throw than Jalen Hurts. His time to throw is average 3.16 seconds. Only Lamar Jackson and Justin Fields hold the ball longer, but Lamar has some of the best pocket presence in football. So
it's better than Hurts is for sure.
Yeah.
I think that all those things, and that's not even really talking about the defense, where I think the issues are a bit more obvious. You know, the linebackers are terrible.
Yeah.
And you know, they play middle of the field closed, and the middle of the field doesn't get closed. I think that's their main issues over there. So, but the Seahawks also played in this game. Drew Lock collected a win. And I do want to give their defense a lot of credit because that looked more like what I expected their defense to look like. Leonard Williams had a good game.
He did have a very nice game. He did have a very nice game.
You know, Boye Mafe was disruptive. Jordan Brooks, I thought, played pretty excellent. Julian Love obviously came up huge. You know, even without Witherspoon out there, their depth at corner shined through. Artie Burns came in and kind of provided a spark. And I thought it was a game where they actually played up to their talent levels. So I don't know what they said in practice this week, but
they locked
it's
in
the same guys.
But
yeah, they did a good job. And Drew Lock, he gives you just enough, man. People go watch the Chargers game that Jerry Jeudy sold him on a couple years ago when he was with the Broncos. His wide receivers were so unreliable. He's kind of a questionable decision maker, and they kind of kept him, I felt like, reined in, especially in the first half. It was a lot of stuff underneath. But when he needed to take that shot, he threw a pill like he said he would. So shout out to you.
It was a
Locke.
little over. JSN made a hell of a catch.
Oh my God. That was a good throw.
It was a good throw. I mean, put it out in front of him, but dog, JSN, like that.
It was a great catch.
That could not have been. If he reaches for that any other way, it's incomplete.
I think Locke put it in a good spot too. I saw the screenshot of JSN's catch and how much by the fingertips it was, but that was a pretty good ball placement from Locke as well. I don't think that was.
It would have been tough to have placed it much better. Like for a backup, you can't ask much more. Can't ask much more from him.
I'm definitely not out on the Seahawks in the playoffs. I ran the playoff simulator. ESPN has their little machine, and by the end of it, I had the Seahawks in there. It's Titans, Steelers, Cardinals the rest of the way for them. If they can end this on a 4-game winning streak and get to how many wins they have gimmies right now?
Those are all tough games.
Steelers, Titans, and Cardinals? What do you want the schedule to be?
I'm not saying they're not gimmies.
The Titans just lost to Case Keenum, bro.
Dog.
That's as close to gimmies as you can get. I mean, there are no gimmies in the league, but come on.
One 500 team that has not been good recently. I mean, what is the seeding there? It's like a 10 seed, a 14 seed, and a 15 seed.
They're not gimmies, man.
Well, then what? I have to agree with my co-host.
It's an easy
here.
schedule.
What are gimmies? I mean, it can't be Panthers. So it's
right. The Panthers would be a gimme, I think. I don't know. It's just like the Titans beat the Dolphins. The Titans beat the Dolphins. Yeah, they lost to Case Keenum, but they beat the Dolphins.
I get what you mean that they're not gimmies, but no game.
The Steelers have a good defense. Like the Steelers have TJ Watt. And
look, you're right. They're not. There's 70-30 games for the Titans, each and every one of them. So not the Titans, the 49ers.
For the Seahawks.
So I think that this was an absolutely gotta have it win for them, and they came through. I think the Eagles can bounce back from this. I think the Seahawks can bounce back from this. I still think this was a match between two good teams more than the Eagles just completely choking a bizarre one. It was a close one against a team that still has a lot of talent.
The Eagles do have now we want to talk about gimmies. The Eagles go Giants, Cardinals, Giants.
That's pretty good.
That should be pretty free.
That is a gimme compared to the Seahawks. I'll give you that.
So if they can't get right in that, they drop this game to the Giants, then I'm a little worried.
Oh yeah, definitely raising a lot of alarms if they lose to DeVito. But the Packers did, so who knows?
Yeah, Eagles are better than the Packers.
It's actually a genius play from the Eagles. I mean, maybe they felt like, the 1 seed, it ain't going to happen. 49ers are too good. They're going to keep winning. We're going to be the wild card team. We're going to let Cowboys win the division, and we're going to get our NFC South matchup as the 5 seed wild card. They're going to get Baker Mayfield.
Make Little Caesars the official pizza sponsor of the NFL part of your game day. Order online during our Pizza pregame 1 hour before and 3 hours after NFL kickoffs, plus all day Sunday. And get ready for some football and some fun. Choose your favorite Little Caesars pizza or pick the toppings you crave. Either way, you win. And speaking of winning, everyone scores with convenient delivery or our in-store pizza portal pickup. So grab some friends and enjoy a few slices during the game.
Speaking of, though, Baker, from my experience, is the most dangerous quarterback in the league, considering he put up about 400 yards on my Packers somehow. And I do want to talk about that for a second. I thought Baker played a really good. I thought Baker played a good game. He took some bad sacks though. But when he actually got a throw off, he was very accurate, aggressive, made some amazing throws versus zone. And just as far as the Packers defense goes, I mean, it's it felt like kind of a death knell. The Jordan Love era is off to, I think, a good start. Not a perfect start, but like he played pretty well in this game, and he's been playing pretty well for the last couple weeks. Even with the Giants game thrown in there, I'm happy with his body of work so far in the second half of the season. And the offense kept making plays, but every time they gave the ball back to Tampa Bay, it was just Baker dropped back and threw it to Godwin, and it was rough. I don't know if you guys watched this one at all, but they played split field, and there was like, a box and a triangle on different sides, or a triangle and a triangle, and Baker would just throw it in the middle of that. It wasn't tight. There were a couple communication issues where they didn't have their numbers right. Like there was a play where it was 4 to one side and just 1 on the other. That 1 was Mike Evans, and there were 3 people paying attention to him, and there were 3 people paying attention to the 4 wide receiver side. Not good. And someone was wide open for a touchdown, right? So it just in terms of the communication of just getting like the numbers to the correct side of the field, they'd be in trips, and with Godwin in the slot, and like Campbell would be on him, and there would be no backside help like on the other side paying attention. It was all bad from a communication standpoint, and schematically, I think it's kind of the same as Brandon Staley, where it's like, okay, you can, 2 high safeties, put a roof on everything. Like, oh, it's a different coverage look on both sides. Like, oh, but at the end of the day, if there's open space, there's open space, and there's just so much open space when the Packers play zone. They're not good at it, so that's on Joe Barry to get it and understand it. Like, I think they've got enough talent to play more man. And they don't. Maybe I'm wrong, but it's all disappointing.
Yeah, I can't disagree. And I mean, they obviously kind of choked down the stretch against the Giants too. I didn't catch a lot of this game, so I don't have any grand comments about it. But yeah, letting up 400 yards to anybody, not good.
Here's what you'll see: you literally the entire game is the Bucs spread out, and the Packers play zone, and it's just too much space for them to defend if they're not on their shit. Like that's literally all it is blown zone coverages and guys not getting to the right side or not feeling routes out well. Like it looks like they had no idea what was about to happen to them, like on any particular play. Cover 2, there's going to be a linebacker as the hook player, the boundary corner as the outside player, and the safety up top. And like Godwin was in the slot, and that was just him on Devondre Campbell the whole game, and they never adjusted like at any point. So it was pretty bad. But I just wanted to get that whole rant off, and I wanted to give Baker a little bit of credit because I do think that he played well, and the offensive line played well. He got time. That turnaround for them from where they were last year has been absolutely massive, and is definitely, without a doubt, the biggest reason that they are in the position that they're in at the top of the division is their line really locked in from last year to this year, I think.
Breaks my heart seeing Baker perform well in a different city.
No, I didn't know if you were going to give the in a different city addition to that take. And you're just going to be mad he was playing good.
No, I'm not mad that he's playing well. Happy for him. Just wish it was in the land.
To him, I suppose. We want to talk a little bit about Falcons Panthers then.
The college football playoffs are set. So what could be a better holiday gift than getting someone tickets to see their favorite college football team play for the national title, or a chance at the national title, or maybe just in a New Year's Six bowl game, or in any bowl game? It really couldn't get much better than that. And it really couldn't get much easier with Game Time. Because with Game Time, you can get the best prices on last-minute tickets for really any event. And it doesn't necessarily have to be football or college football or any sport. It could be music. It could be comedy. It could be anything. I'm on the Game Time app right now. They've got Doja Cat. They've got all types of local bands even. Not some that I haven't even heard of, but maybe I'll go see them because I can get cheap tickets at any time, last-minute deals. So make sure you head on over to gametime.co or use the Game Time app and use the code BlaidenK to get you're already getting the best deal, and now you can use this code and get $20 off. It really doesn't get any better or easier. You can even see like pictures of where your seat's going to be. Game Time really does have it all. They make it so easy, and they give you the best prices. And if you use the code BlaidenK, you can get $20 off your purchase. So head on over to gametime.co or use the Game Time app today.
Yes, I just wanted to rant about my favorite team. Matt, how about
Yeah,
I want to hear your instant reaction, or not instant, but
Matt,
your reaction
were you one of the 4 or 5 fans at this game?
I was not. I will be one of the 4 or 5 Hornets fans at Pacers Hornets tonight.
Let's go.
We're tuning in to watch Terry Rozier become 5th all-time leading scorer in Hornets history. He is a great player. If you are a contender, you do want to send over multiple first-round picks for him. Fellas, tap in. I don't know. I mean, like, I don't have any huge takeaways from this game. In terms of like Panthers, like I didn't think it was some grand experience. I thought Bryce played well. The final drive was pretty good. But again, it just comes down to the offense around him is just so limited. But at least he had a couple of plays. He particularly had one run where he got out and did a really good job of using his legs. And that's really what I want to see more of. I know he's going to take some sacks. I know it's going to be tough because the receivers just stink, man. I mean, they're worse than what the Chiefs have, like significantly. I think.
Yeah.
I mean, it's like.
I mean, the Chiefs have Travis Kelce factoring into their. I mean, obviously, you're talking
not
about
even
the
factoring in
here,
Travis Kelce. I think it's significantly worse what the Panthers are working.
It's
with
It's worse, and then replace Travis Kelce with Tommy Tremble, and
right. Like,
and
don't disrespect Tommy Tremble like that.
Why?
The one Notre Dame tight end who doesn't turn out. I mean, it's so I'm happy with that, but I guess I'm not out on Bryce Young. I really just want to see him get some receivers, and I hope the Panthers are there's so many this year. Just go be aggressive about it and screw like genuine, like, oh, we have to be smart, team building. Like, dude, just try to plug as many holes as you can on offense and see if you can make it.
It's
like
a move that has. It's a move that's worked every time. Like DJ Moore, like trading for him didn't completely turn the Bears around, but you can't say that he hasn't been a good addition. And think about how it would look without him this year. Like, oh my God, AJ Brown. We talked about it all last year. Like, we all know
actually,
the guys.
I can think of what an offense losing DJ Moore with a young, unproven quarterback may look like. I have some insight into that.
If the Bears didn't have DJ Moore, they would have the worst receiving core in the league.
It's just, and like I'm down to like try to trade Brian Burns and spend whatever you get on that on more offensive talent. I just, we didn't invest all of this for the sake of not giving him a real team. But he did get the win today, 9 points, but he got the win. As far as the Falcons go. As far as the other side of the ball goes, I'm very proud of the run defense, and it's doing its absolute best. And Derek Brown is such a beast. A very, very popular take in Charlotte, Carolina circles is that trade anybody but Derek Brown. That's our guy. Pay him whatever he needs to be paid. Do not do this Brian Burns crap with him. He's our best player. So for them to be able to stand up when their run defense has been, and here's the crazy part. Panthers run defense, I don't know if this is true after last week, but it's like the worst in the NFL still, even with them. And it's just horrifying. And this is exactly what I called out happening when they signed a bunch of like well below replacement level players to try to fill out the defense. It's like, okay, well, that's not going to work. Shy Tuttle is not going to move mountains here.
No.
But they
I saw Yetur Gross Matos get erased by.
I mean, it's rough. And they still easily could have lost this game. Unfortunately, it came down to a very bad Ritter interception. A very bad
a
Ritter
very
interception.
bad one. A very, very bad
and
one.
I know it was pouring rain, and I know that
I
probably
couldn't
a lot
quite
of this
even
just
tell.
I
couldn't tell what he was looking at.
I have no idea.
There was Drake London open, so you would think that he was throwing it to London, but it went so far away from London. Maybe it slipped out in the rain, but it was going so far away from him and towards Pitts that I almost thought it was a pass towards Kyle Pitts, who was kind of blanketed on that one. I have no idea what that play was supposed to be from Desmond Ritter. They asked Arthur Smith about it after the game, and he said he was trying to make a play. So it's not a
Arthur Smith, least valuable press conference player of the year. And I know that probably the reality of why they won this game is because the Falcons were so scared to pass it because of the rain and because of maybe who was at quarterback, and because they could just totally key in on the run game, and it was just a bad set of circumstances. But I'm at least a little happy with the win. We're in fighting range of not giving up.
You gotta be a little.
We're in fighting range of not giving up the number 1 overall pick. Now that would mean a lot to me if they could find some way to get down to 3 and just give up, Marvin Harris.
Yeah,
sucks anyway.
Tough.
But
yeah, at least you're not.
All they would give up is the greatest prospect.
In that
seen.
reality, Panthers don't give up Hall of Fame quarterback, and instead they pair Ohio State receiver with Ohio State quarterback. It still can happen. That still would be on the board. But I guess I don't have any crazy takeaways other than
I don't either. It was a slop fest in the rain. I thought Arthur Smith, it was a bad look for him how scared he played, because he was scared of Derek Brown as much as he was scared of the rain. They didn't have Chris Lindstrom out there, so it was a big mismatch. And Burns was often aligned to that same side, so it was a lot of runs to the left, and then Carolina would just blitz their safety that way. So on one side, you would have Brown and Burns. On the other side, you'd have the blitz. And then maybe you could beat them through the air. I guess we'll never know because they didn't really try. So that was the story of this one. And those are the kinds of factors it takes for the Carolina Panthers to win a football game. It feels like they need a little bit of extra help or something, cosmically happening to force the Falcons' hand a little bit. But I thought that was the story. I think
has delivered our second.
I think that Arthur Smith deserves a chance to finish out the season. The Falcons aren't completely out of it yet, although this 2-game losing streak after beating the Saints has been absolutely brutal. And if they miss the playoffs, I'm good with firing him. I just think his offense is kind of low ceiling, and I think coaching scared is what he's done for a lot of
his offense was nice for for a year, and it's like being kind of like a feisty little team that was supposed to be like, there was a time where the Falcons were supposed to be one of the worst teams in the NFL, and they weren't, and they won 7 games, and that was great.
Definitely.
But I agree, the offense is low ceiling, and that's crazy because they have so many high level playmakers. They have so many guys who should be generating tons of explosives, and I know a lot of that falls on Ritter's shoulders, who he just
has not lived up to the hype from us.
Overall, what it's come down to with him really is that he just cannot handle pressure well enough. It's way off of where an NFL starter should be. And he takes so many sacks. He's good usually in structure when he gets the ball out of his hands. I think he's made some mistakes this year for sure, but it's been more good than bad. And he does have legs, and like that adds, an element. But
he does have legs.
Dropping. The problem is that they're an offense that so badly wants to, stay on pace, stay ahead of the chains, grind it out, and then you have a quarterback where when you drop back, you're so prone to throwing that entirely off that it's made them, not just in this game, but in a lot of games, very scared to do anything in the passing game. And that's a real problem when you have, Kyle Pitts and Drake London, who should be your big playmakers. Outside, and it's tough because outside of Arthur Smith and Desmond Ritter, I was thinking about this, the receiver depth isn't good, but It's a very well-built offense. It's got the top options, 1, 2, 3. The offensive line isn't perfect, but it's definitely more good than bad. You know, this should be an elite unit. And if you felt like you got a coach who could really dial some stuff up and change some things around, you got a quarterback you trust this offseason, there's no reason why the Falcons couldn't be a very, very, very good offense next year.
Yeah, I think I disagree with a little bit about the well-built thing. I think that they are better built than what they have been. But when I watched the game against the Falcons or against the Panthers, you know, one thought I kept having was, you know, the offensive line should be a lot better than this if they're going to be of this critical importance. Like if they're going to run it more than everybody else in the league, the line has to be a bunch of superhumans. And Chris Lindstrom being out really hurts. He's their best guy. But, you know, runs to the left, they're getting beat by Nick Thurman at center, and Bergeron's a rookie, so maybe he can turn it on. But McGarry and Jake Matthews have maybe been a bit disappointing. Like a lot of the times the Panthers were able to set a good edge on them in this game. Like the offensive linemen are really the playmakers of this offense. Like they get the most opportunities to like kind of flex compared to, you know, other offensive lines across the league. And then you're running it so much that every time you do pass, it should be incredibly efficient with London and Pitts. I think that's why you invest such a high pick in them, is like, okay, when we do pass, it's going to pick up, you know, 15 yards every time now with these top 10 weapons. And they're good, but there's not a lot of speed. I feel like that's something we've talked about with the Panthers and the Chargers, but it does affect the Falcons as well, as good as their weapons are. Pitts is a tight end, a very fast tight end, but still a tight end. And London is a slow wide receiver. And like, who is that guy?
He's quick though.
You know,
he's quick though.
He's definitely quick. I love Drake London. I absolutely love Drake London, and I love Kyle Pitts. But there's that element of like take the top off, or you know, when you run play action and someone's got like a post corner or something like that. Like they don't have someone who clears that out super fast, and they could use something like that. So I think upgrades to the offensive line and the receiver room still do need
but I don't think they're major upgrades. I don't think it's anything like crazy. I mean, yeah, I agree. If they want to just be this ridiculous run heavy team, the offensive line has to be a bunch of superhumans. But how about an offense that doesn't necessarily want to do that?
True.
You know, I think it's still overall a good unit. And while I agree, it's like they absolutely need some receivers outside of Drake London. If you were taking over that offense, you know, these are very fixable things. It's not, they have the stars in place and they have an above average offensive line. How many teams can say that? Not many. So I think it's still, you know, in a year's time could become a great unit. Again, it comes down to quarterback. That's the big one. You don't have that. So maybe it's not well built, but I think there's a lot of talent on that offense, not just at the skill position group, but there's a lot of talent on that offense. And if you make one or two key moves, it could be next level. It could be really great.
And Bijan's kind of your speed element too in the receiving game.
Not really. I mean, I'm talking about down the field.
Oh, yeah, I guess.
He's not running. He's not taking the top off. Like the safeties aren't worried about him.
Yeah, that's fair.
They got a bunch of good like options in the intermediate. They've got the best intermediate and short like options that you could possibly want. And Drake London is good down the field, even if he's not creating a ton of separation because he's so good in contested catch situations. So he's got that element a little bit like as a 3-level scorer in the wide receiver room. But yeah, it's rough. And I think, it should be a lot better than it is. And it could be soon, but it's not now. And we'll see if that costs Arthur Smith his job. I think that I could understand it. I do think that he's, like you said on the live stream, Matt, he made the sandwich. You know, he's the one who put a lot of faith in Desmond Ridder, and that was kind of his guy. But want to talk about some NBA?
Sandwich.
Yeah, we could talk about a little bit of NBA.
Who's our Under Armour NBA game changer of the week this time?
Going with a team.
It's got to.
Oh, okay.
You're going with a team.
No,
okay.
Look, I could say Ja Morant. I'm assuming that's who you want me to say.
Okay.
And Ja had, a fantastic game, a fantastic second half.
all the crap about him, is he a winning player? And which some people are like, well, people are really making up narratives that didn't exist. Nope, you're wrong. When I tweeted this out, I was like, people were saying that. It's like, that's obviously not true. Oh, that nobody ever said that. Yes, they did. Yes, they did. It just seems so ridiculous now that you forget that people were saying that. But last year when the Grizzlies were better without him, their record was better. It's like, oh, Ja Morant, blah, blah, blah. No. He's one of the best point of attack. Just go and create me something, creation advantage guys that there is. His first game back, 34 points, 35 points, whatever.
I do want to talk a bit about
game
Ja.
winner at the end. Well, go for it then. He was awesome.
We all know how awesome it was, and I wasn't watching intently enough to tell you exactly how he was attacking certain basketball coverages. I don't know enough about basketball coverages to even know that. But what I do know is that the guy he's got to be the most coordinated, like elastic player in the league. Like when he's coming downhill, to be as control as he is nuts. He hit someone with a dribble move, a crossover at the top of the 3-point arc, drove like with a crazy forward lean, like almost falling forward, like he's going downhill like that, and then just flicks it up for like an alley-oop. I don't know how you can be in that mode where it's like, I got eyes on the basket, I'm crossing a guy up and driving, but also like I'm looking to create, and I can make a move with that kind of touch at the exact same time. And just his ridiculous finishes. Like I don't know how his hand-eye coordination through contact is as good as it is. And I think it's something you see. It's what makes you a great athlete, I think, in any sport, is when you can ignore the defense and you can ignore contact and you can ignore what's being thrown at you and just kind of play
control, having ridiculous body control. That's really what separates. I 100% agree. And that's the thing about Ja. It's like everybody knows that he's super athletic, and maybe sometimes people think it's just as simple as, well, he's so athletic he can just beat guys off the dribble, and that's great. But there's plenty of athletic guys.
Yeah, so is Jaden Ivey,
doing
right?
What Ja is doing, who are not the passer that Ja is, who are not as creative as Ja is, who cannot get to the rim in as many ways as Ja can, and who are not as strong as finishers, because he's just ridiculous around the rim. I mean, okay, for instance, you see a guy like Scoot Henderson, not trying to hate on him at all. He's super young, tough position to be in.
Yeah.
Super, whatever. The reason why he struggles, even though he is a great passer and he can beat guys off the dribble, is that he does not have, the supporting skill set that like a Morant does around him at this moment. And that's what he's got to develop, right? So it is more complicated than that. He deserves a lot of credit. Ja's a great player. I don't know if the Grizzlies are going to fight their way back into the playoffs. It's going to be tough in the West, and they're still 12 games
fine in the West,
under 500. Okay, they're right. They're fine in the West, and they're going to the finals, I'm sure.
He proved that the team is not better without him, even though that's an agenda.
That was such a funny.
I very wholeheartedly pushed in the past with not a hint of irony.
Well, what people will say is, well, the team's not as good as it was last year. And like, yeah, that's true, obviously. But what is going to happen is that this year the team was really bad without him, and I think they're going to be pretty solid with him. And that enough is going to be, proof of concept. And also just having a guy who you have to lock in on defense and change how you're defending the team on the court, it just does make you better. I don't care what the advanced stats say. I don't care if last year they had a really well-built team and, Tyus Jones was great coming in support and they ended up winning more games without him. I'm sorry. I just won't buy it. You just watch it and you know what you're seeing.
Yeah, I think that there, to some extent, has always been the mentality of like, oh, Ja is out, we're going to lock it. And they had a bunch of good role players before, but their ceiling was always cooked without Ja. Like they could win some games. But were they going on a finals run without a guy like that? No. And I think that's where, yes, the record in the past has been better without him, but they're not actually more dangerous. It's just they were, their role players were good, in those games. And this year they're not as good. So my flight board's in about 20 minutes here, starts to. All so right. Let's zoom through the Stay Hot locks. They're presented by Prize Picks. We each draft basically a parlay. You guys know how it works at this point. Matt is winning. Blaiden is second. I'm in last. So let's have it go. Yeah. Matt pick first. Blaiden pick second. I pick third. And for my sake, clip along through this. So
let's rip. Let's rip.
Matt, once you've got it up, you're on the clock.
Oh, I'm going first. Oh man. Oh man. Oh man.
Oh man.
I'm gonna take. Gosh, how about the Eagles over the Giants? Right.
That's a good one.
That's not a bad pick.
They're probably not going to lose that game. They'll probably find a way to boss up. Okay, I'm going there.
That's fair. With the second pick, I will take the Bills over the Chargers.
Not a bad one, considering how the Chargers looked last week. I will pick the Packers over the Panthers, even though the Packers have looked extremely mid lately. The Panthers are worse than mid, and I will take let's go with the Chiefs over the Raiders.
There you go.
Okay. I can't hate that. With my second pick, I will take let's see. I don't love a whole lot of these, but you know what? Give me the Rams over the Saints.
Sure. I would love to hear your rationale, but not in this moment, as my time is ticking down.
It's more just a gut feeling.
How much of a lead do I have on you, Blaine?
Fair enough.
1.
All right. I could go. Did we take Broncos over Patriots yet?
We have not yet. That's all you if you want it.
All right, I'll take that. And then
All
I'll
right.
be done.
I will also be done.
I am just going to do the perhaps common sense analytical move here. I'm challenging you, Blaiden. I'm going to lock the Saints over the Rams. Not because I have a lot of belief in the Saints, but I need to make up ground and 2 points for a game that I think is up in the air. I'm going to do that, and then I'm going to be done. And that's all of us then.
Yeah. I probably should have taken the Broncos.
We'll see.
Oh, well, we will see. But that's all for another episode of Stay Hot. Thank you all so much for tuning in. Reminder, we will not be doing episodes on Christmas or on New Year's, so don't be expecting those to come out. But we will, of course, have our normal content in between. But until next time, thank you all for tuning in. Have a very happy holidays, whether you celebrate Christmas or anything else. And until next time, we will catch you on the Flippity Flop.